Welcome everyone, and thank you for attending today's webcast, Civil 3D Geotechnical Module and Introduction. Our presenter today is Scott Hawker. He's a solutions engineer with Hagerman and Company. Before we get started, I'll let you know that you're in listening only mode. If you have questions during the presentation, you can type those into the question panel on the right-hand side of your screen. They'll be addressed at the end of the presentation. As we close down the session today, you'll be prompted to fill out a survey, and we do ask that you take a few moments to fill that out. Additionally, all registrants will receive a follow-up email containing a link for the recording of this presentation. And with that, I'll hand things over to Scott.
Thank you very much, Ashley. I do appreciate that. Good afternoon and excuse me, good morning to everyone, depending on the location that you are in today. Like Ashley said, this is an introduction to the Civil 3D Geotechnical Module, kind of a little known extension. Maybe not for some of you, but for a lot of us, it actually is. Geotechnical information and geotechnical engineering is something that usually is kept in the dark, kind of. You've got those soil samples and things of that nature, but it does come in handy. Like Ashley did say, I am Scott Hawker. I'm an AEC solutions engineer with Hagerman and Company. And with that, let's just get started and get into it. So first off, we're going to do just a slight overview. Yes, I'm going to overload you with a few PowerPoint slides. I'm not going to overdo it. We will see the module in action, so there will be some actual Civil 3D and Geotechnical Module interaction there. Okay, so a brief overview is the Geotechnical Module has been around for a few iterations now. It was developed by a company in the UK called Kinetics. I believe the gentleman that designed it is Dave Morin. But they thought that it would be a great idea to ease the task of creating and viewing geological and subsurface information. We all know, and not just us civil folks, if there are any architects on the line, we all know that where we're going to put structures, whether it's roadway or buildings, foundations, etc., it's important to know what the soil is going to do in those locations. Before we had the geotechnical module, we would get the information, we'd kind of hand draw it in or use simple AutoCAD functions in order to place it at the proper locations. But now we can actually pull it off of the data collector and pull it into our information for Civil 3D. So with that, like I just said, quickly display our data in Civil 3D. It allows us to see and interpret the site data. Now, the geotechnical module, or extension, if you will, is available to all of the AutoCAD Civil 3D subscription customers, and it can be downloaded from the AutoCAD Account Management tab at your Autodesk account page, or you can access it from your Autodesk desktop app. So what exactly is the geotechnical module? Well, it does allow us to import and connect geotechnical data, whether it be CSV files or AGS files. As you can see, just a brief definition of each. I think we're all here in the United States familiar with the CSV, or the comma delimited or separated value file. The AGS came about, like I said, the product was developed in the UK. The AGS files are the Association of Geotechnical and Geoenvironmental Specialists. Basically, anybody with a really cool accent, like the UK, Australia, New Zealand, things like that. And it also allows us to see boring locations and the three-dimensional strata data, okay? Whether it's topsoil, limestone, sand, what kind of information we have actually going on with our boreholes, okay? So we all know that prior to any type of, hopefully, construction and design, that we've sent out a crew, a geotechnical engineer. They're going to take the big boom out there. They're going to start drilling and pulling up plugs. So it'll tell us exactly what kind of soil we're going to be dealing with here on our site. So with that, being able to see them in 3D, we have a better idea of how to manage those surfaces. Do we need to go in and scrape off a particular set of topsoil or clay, for that matter, and replace it with good solid black dirt, so to speak? Okay. We can also create dynamic geotechnical profiles. Now, there's an interesting kind of situation. Up to this point, we would have to draw them by hand, meaning AutoCAD functionality, etc., and place them in our profiles. With this, it allows us to go ahead, access the information, create a profile, create an alignment first, obviously, and then show it on our screen. And we can have that become part of our planned production set. Now we're going to be able to set hatch patterns and styles for these so we can show them, very similar to what you would see in your profiles for your cut, your fill functionality when you create a style for your profile view. Okay. Now, what it isn't, it is not a replacement for any type of geotechnical knowledge and experience. Please continue to utilize the professionals in that area. Okay. They know what they're doing. They have great experience like the rest of us do for what we do best. Please do not think that this is a replacement for those folks, because this will not this will not interpret and model the geology. You will need additional information as well, different types of references, soil or geology maps, aerials, knowledge of the project site, its location, how it comes into play, etc. So let's get into it. Let's get started. So we'll talk a little bit about the interface. So once installed, you'll see that there's a geotechnical module tab on your static ribbon. Once you've selected the geotechnical module, you will see what I consider to be the geotechnical module contextual ribbon, because we see exactly what you have here. This is contextual to our geotechnical module. These are the commands that we can utilize in order to access, manage our borings as we implement them into Civil 3D. Now, they're broken down into 5 different panels. Okay, there's only one tab. It's the geotechnical tab. We've already talked about that, but there are 5 different panels here. And the first one is the data management. Okay, so we're managing our data. The second is our asset management. Third is creating our profiles. 3 is our fence diagrams, and the third one is profiles. The fourth is fence diagrams. The fifth is help. Okay, so we have all of that information there with us. Okay, now each one obviously has different connotation. So the first one we're going to talk about is the connect. This allows us to access project data directly from the local geotech database. Okay, typically you will download these files, place them on your hard drive or your network drive. Okay, so it's very similar to connecting as far as utilizing the Map 3D functionality, or even the functionality of connection for your InfraWorks products. It's going to ask us to go out, find the proper location, access those files. And we will go through some of these in the actual presentation portion once we get there. But I do want to give you a little bit of a brief overview before we get into that, so you have a little bit more knowledge before we really start rolling. Okay, the import is just that. It is used to import either the CSV or the AGS data into your current project. Now, when I speak of project for the geotechnical module, it can mean project site. Okay, it could also mean phasing within a site, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 boring holes, etc. So when I say project, it does not necessarily mean a 30-acre commercial site located at the corner of Black and Decker. Okay, so we can break these up. We can have several, as many as we need to, and we'll see that again once we get to that part. Okay, we also have the ability to update our boreholes and access any changes in our database. If any of the files have been updated, as long as we keep the same name, we can go click update. It's going to go back, take a look at that information. It will actually show us in a dialog box what changes there are and what updates are going to occur. We can also export. That one's pretty straightforward. We can export our information out to an external file. Okay. Now, in our asset management, we've got our location. Now, the location is used to control what elements are displayed, how they're presented. It gives us control over the 3D borehole banding. It gives us control over the vertical exaggeration. We need to remember, once we get to creating a surface from our borehole so that we can actually see the amount of sand, for instance, that a vertical exaggeration is going to do just that. It will vertically exaggerate your surface. So make sure that you change under your location and your vertical exaggeration. You want to change that to 1 before we get started doing any type of calculations at all. Okay. We've got our strata. This opens up our strata manager. It's used to create and display our surfaces. Now, the surfaces that are created are standard Civil 3D surfaces. Anything that we can do to a surface that we've created, say existing information, we can do the same here. We can change how it looks. We can change the styles. We can change vertical exaggerations. Okay, so it's not something that's going to be completely foreign to us. We're going to be able to access, define, and show our surfaces using our Civil 3D commands in our tool prospector, just like any other surface that we create. So there's no additional information or no additional learning curve there. Now, our hatches allow us to define the hatches that we want to create. Okay, this one's pretty straightforward. We want to create hatches from multiple overlays. They're defined, used to render the strips or the profile areas. Okay, so we'll see once we get into profile that we should be able to see the areas that would be topsoil, the areas that might be clay, the areas that would be, etc., 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 so on and so on. Okay, so there's our hatches. Now, traditionally, complex hatches can be used to represent your different geologies. So oftentimes your standard AutoCAD patterns are not flexible enough to show. For my example, I'm going to just show basically solid hatches within the different strata. Okay, but some municipalities, some customers, clients, etc., will require complex hatches. I think we've all seen them. There are various dots and crosses and triangles and things of that nature in order to show what would be a standard hatch for, say, concrete, for silt, etc. Okay, so you can make up your own hatch patterns, color, scale, rotation. All right. You also have the ability to set styles. Okay. Now the styles are going to be somewhat similar to what we see under Civil 3D. I don't quite know what's going on there because you're getting a kind of a funky little flicker, but I apologize for that. Okay. Um, Style Manager, we're going to be able to manipulate the different hatches that we've created. So we'll be able to add strata to these styles. We'll be able to give them a color. We'll be able to go ahead, and it's going to be very similar to, again, our Map 3D um, setup. Okay, so when we bring in our objects, our FDO objects in Map 3D, we can actually give it a color, etc., and transparency, so on and so on. Okay, we've got our Layer Manager. Okay, separate from our Civil 3D / AutoCAD Layer Manager. So what this is, it is used to define the naming convention for our layers being used. You can add a prefix and or a suffix with your drop-down options, so we can display our objects, our stratum, and our elements properly or to our satisfaction. We have an option to split the layer based on a hatch pattern, and then we can configure these further in our layer properties manager within Civil 3D and or AutoCAD. So once again, not a huge learning curve. Okay, we can still manipulate them within our layer manager. Okay, so once we have them defined, we're going to see them in our layer properties. In our profile panel, this is where we can create our Civil 3D profiles. They are going to be similar to what we create using our alignment, our surface, for say roadways or ditches or anything else that we want to utilize an alignment for and create a profile. Okay, so within that area, it will show us our boreholes. We can specify a buffer of a specific distance, so that will include all of the borings within that specific distance or buffer. Okay, and it will automatically hatch between our profiles. Okay, we can edit. So we're going to be able to edit our Civil 3D profile view. Again, pretty straightforward, right? We've all done that before. So once a view's been created, the editor tool allows to change what is actually displayed on that profile. So we can turn it on and off, much like we can with our pipe networks. Okay, so if you're familiar with that, this is going to be something that will make a lot of sense to you. Okay, and we also have our manage command here. This allows us to resynchronize our boreholes within our profile views, just in case they go out of date. After our creation, we can go ahead and manage and actually resynchronize them. And last but not least, we've got our create and manage our fence diagrams. We can actually create them to visualize our surfaces on the plan view of the drawing. Sometimes it's important to have a fence diagram, probably not too common, I wouldn't think, especially since the ribbon moves from left to right, just like every other ribbon that we have. The most common are found to the left, okay? But we do have the ability to create a fence diagram. Typically, that would be creating a 3D section for a view in model space, okay? So the fence diagram uses either 3D mesh surfaces or solids to create a 3D section of our geology objects along the alignment that we're going to specify. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, we need to connect to our database, and we're going to set this database up. So before any type of geological or geotechnical information can be imported, we must create a project. Or we must go ahead and open up an existing geotechnical database. So once we get to our contextual ribbon, we're going to click connect. You can see there in the upper left-hand corner. It's going to go ahead and open up our login dialog box. Okay. And you'll be able to specify a database, typically Geotechnical Module 2018 for those in 18, or Geotechnical Module will work. This is just where it's going to store it. Okay. The Geotechnical Module that you see here on the screen is actually a default that's already in the software. That is not something I created. And then unless you're using a specific whole base SI database, which is typically, again, UK based, we're not going to need a username and we're not going to need a password. So we can move right along to login. Okay. That will open up another dialog box showing us the projects that are available to us within that database. So in this case, on the left side here, there are no project IDs. Okay. So if you don't have any projects, no problem. Click create in the bottom left corner. That's going to bring up the dialog box so that we can create our project. Now there are only 4 required fields in the project details that we need to take care of. The first one, project ID. It could be a job number, it could be a phase, project number, whatever you would like to utilize it. Make sure it is something that everyone agrees upon, everybody understands though. Okay. The second field, subdivision, big box retail. This is Home Depot. This is Woodlawn, etc. So project ID, we need a name, we need a status, open, closed, in progress, etc. Okay, I'll show you the other options here once we get into the software. Okay, and then you've got to have a category. Typically, they will suggest just hit default. Okay, so they recommend that. Now, these are the only 4 fields that need to be filled in for creating your project. If you would like to put in the location of the site, have at it. Client name, sure. Contractor, engineer, etc. If you would like to go ahead and put that in just so you have that information, please do. Okay, but just be aware you only need the ID, the name, the status, and the category. And once you have those 4 filled out, simply click save. Okay. Now, once we get our project created, we're able to access our CSV or AGS files. Okay. Now, I told you a little bit at the beginning, it requires 2 mandatory files. Okay. It requires location details.csv, which is our borehole type and location. Okay. And this is the information that we're going to need in order to plot these and place them correctly. You'll need the location ID, type, northing and easting, ground level. You don't have to have a final depth, as you can see under our mandatory column, but the first 5 you do. It gives you an example here of what they should look like. Location ID, borehole 0001. Okay, location type, what type of activity? Northing, easting, what's the ground level? Now, within our survey generated ASCII file, this is what it looks like. comma delimited. This is not something that's different. It's not something that's going to take us by surprise. Okay, so as you can see, it's got the location, it's got the type, it's got easting, northing, ground level, and final depth. Okay, so that's one of the two mandatory files. The second is our field geological descriptions. It's our strata and our banding. Similar to our location details, we have mandatory information that needs to be placed in this file. This time we only need the location ID, the top depth, and the depth base. Okay, we don't necessarily need a code for legend, geology, or geology code 2. Okay, we don't even need our description, general description of stratum. Well, stiff gray silty clay, that does come in handy, but it is not necessary. And again, this is what it will look like when you download the ASCII file and it's presented to you and placed on your hard drive or your network. Okay, now before we get into our questions, this is where we're going to access the software, and we're going to walk through this again so you can actually see how it works within Civil 3D. Excuse me. Okay, so I've created a file, nothing fancy, just one from our typical Imperial National CAD Standards template file. Okay, and the first thing that we want to do is go ahead and we want to connect, right? So we're going to connect. It says it's connected. Yes, we're going to disconnect it from the project. In this case, we'll run connect again. Okay, so there it is. Here's my geotechnical module. So my database is here. I can select different databases. In this case, I only have one for Civil 3D 2018. Okay, that's the only one I have. Now, I don't need to put in any sort of username or password. So we're going to click and log into, excuse me, our project. And hopefully it'll be a little bit quicker here. Okay, thank you very much. All right, so what we can do now is we can go ahead and import. Whoops, hold on. Got to take a step back. My connect did not work properly. Yes, connect module. I should be getting a prompt to select. And if it doesn't come up, we'll do something very quickly here so we can do that. Okay, so you're not going to do that. So we'll do this instead. Just go ahead, cancel, create a new file again. When in doubt, change it up. Okay, standard, open. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to save this as something that makes sense. To a location that makes sense. So we'll call it webinar 2. Absolutely. All right. Now that we're back on track, I hope. Let's connect. There we go. So there's our project. Okay, that's what I wanted to see. Now I can go ahead and create, if you'll notice, I did create one previously. Okay, Geotechnical Module 2018. I gave it a title. The status is open. The category is default. I'm just going to go ahead and create a new project. So maybe your project ID is the date that it was created, so 2018 dash, today is the 29th, I believe, so 08-29. Call this webinar Big Box. And if I could spell correctly today, but that's why we have spell check now. Okay, here's the status. Now I told you that there were several others. We've got open, completed, desk study, archive, quoted. We just want it to be open. We're just starting it. Okay, the category, we only have one. It's default. Now I told you that the rest of these, like location, client name, contractor, etc., are not mandatory. So if you would like to fill them in, please do. If not, we're good to go. So we'll say save. Now it's up to us to go ahead and select the project that we want to associate with this drawing file. And if I so desire, I can delete the project ID here. So right now, under my Geotechnical Module 2018, I only have 2 projects. So we'll say that this is the one that we want. We'll say OK. And we'll sit and we'll wait. But now we've created a project. We've associated that project to this drawing. And now what we're able to do is we're able to actually go ahead and import our information. Okay. Now, the file format is either CSV or the AGSs. Okay. Now, the CSVs are typically going to be North America, and the AGSs are typically going to be United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, etc. Okay. And what we'd like to do here is we're going to go ahead and leave the mapping alone for right now. As you can see, we do have an option for 2014 and 15. We're going to go with default. Now, what I'd like to do now is I need to add in my files. So we need to click add in the bottom left portion. Okay, and here are 3 files. Now, I told you that I only needed 2, and that is correct. I only need the location details, and there's a preview of it there on the right-hand side. I need the field geological descriptions, and then I also need the orientation and inclination. That's not mandatory, but what this does is it will actually bring in your boreholes. So, for instance, BH38, and it will actually use and produce an incline boring hole. So if it was not drilled straight down, it will put in the angle of the borehole. Now I'm going to utilize this file so you can see it. There are 2 in here. The other ones are 90 degrees. Okay, so we're going to grab all 3 of these, and we're going to click open. So they're available to us right now. Okay, so we're going to walk through the wizard, which is always nice. So we know what we've got here. So we're going to say next. Walking through the wizard. This is our file check. So what the software does is it goes in and it says, yeah, this will work for me. Everything is in order. Okay, very much like when you bring in points If the format for your point file is not correct, you will not be able to utilize it. So this lets you know before you get too far that you have valid files to utilize for your geotechnical module. Okay, perfect. So what they've done now is they've pretty much gone ahead and combined the three files here. Okay, you've got all sorts of boring holes set up. Okay, boring hole 1, and it's going to be shown and imported. If I choose not to, I just toggle it off right there. Okay, so you've got ground level, your final depth, which we did not fill in. We don't have a start, we don't have an end, but we do have all the boreholes that we're going to utilize here and that were captured by our geotech folks. Okay, now it's recommended that you have at least one of your boreholes toggled on. Okay, so that it can actually just bring one in so you can see what's going on here. We're going to keep them all toggled, but if you choose to do so, you can either select all or clear all. Okay, there actually is that option for us. So we're going to click on next. It's going to go through the process. It's going to tell us I've got 18 locations, 16 orientation inclinations, and field descriptions, etc. So these are going to be applied to the boreholes when I bring them in. Okay. So we're going to say next. It's going to go ahead and import our boreholes. Once we're done, we simply click finish, and there they are, just like that. It's got a label, it's got a location. Okay, so I know where these boreholes are now. Okay, so we've gone ahead, we've imported, we've walked it through. We've brought in every single borehole that we have. Okay, and now let's go ahead and we'll take a look at these boreholes. The first thing I need to do is change from a 2D wireframe. We'll just go with shaded for now. And we'll use our view cube. We'll take a look at it from an isometric view. And here we are. There are our boreholes. Okay. Now, we talked about utilizing that third file that we needed, the orientation and inclination. Okay. This one right here was part of that orientation and inclination. Okay. It was not bored straight down. It was actually bored on an angle for whatever reason. It could be a foundation aspect. It could be a tree. Who knows? But it could be any one of a number of things. But that's going to show up, and it's going to allow us to see that. Okay? So we've imported our information. Let's take a look at what the locations manager shows us. Now it's going to split my screen. Okay? I can toggle this boreholes on or off. I can still access my civil. If I zoom in, that's BH38. Okay. And you can click on your column header and make it ascending or descending. Okay. If I don't want to see borehole 38, simply toggle it so it's not included. Okay. You can also toggle the fact that it is not shown. Whoops, that's 40. Let's make sure we've got 38. In plan view, you will not see the label. So if you do not want to see it either in plan view or in 3D or model, simply toggle them both off. Right? Now, if there's one that you want to find, you've got several. I can go ahead and zoom to, so let's zoom to 34. There it is. Okay, so you've got your include, right? Your bands are going to be geology codes. You've got a couple that are built in. See what legend code looks like. If anything, no change. We'll regen. I think the colors are all set the same. So we'll go back to geology code. Okay. Like I told you, you've got your 3D exaggeration here. Before you do anything as far as your calculations, you'll want to change that number to 1. Okay. Because it's going to shrink them up and give them the actual depth that they're supposed to be. Okay. So you're going to want to go ahead and take care of that. All right. So far, so good. We've got them brought in. We can see the color. Okay. We've got our 3D vertical change to 1. We can change the 2-dimensional exaggeration. We can select them from the drawing, and we can clear all of our filters. Okay. Perfect. Well, now that we've got that, let's take a look, and you can simply close these. It's just like your panorama view. Okay. And we'll continue moving left to right. So we'll select strata. We're going to get another palette. Okay. And it's going to show us what it looks like. So we're going to be able to actually display the surfaces here. Do I want them to be visible? Simply toggle it on. Oh, look, there it is right there. It's magic. Do I want to see, if I click the pull down, the top and the base? Okay. Do I want to see the sand? Again, top and bottom, clay. And you can see right here that it's generating those surfaces for me. Okay. Now we can also include the base of locations. This is kind of iffy. I don't really recommend throwing that one on there. It takes information from the last value of one of your boreholes, and it may create inaccurate surfaces. So we'll just leave that off. Okay. Let's see what we have here. Information, purposes. All right, we can get rid of that. But if we zoom in, okay, we're in 3 dimensions. I can go ahead and take a look at my surfaces. Okay. Now, what I might want to do here, before I do any type of information, I might want to go back to my locations, change the vertical exaggeration back to something that makes it a little bit easier to see. Much like this. Okay. Perfect. Beautiful. Right? Okay, so we've gone ahead and taken care of that information. We're almost there. Okay. We'll change that to 2D wireframe. Get a general idea of what that's going to look like. Go back to top view. So this is what it looks like. It's a tin, right? So it looks perfect to me. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to create a dynamic geotechnical profile view. So let's go ahead and we'll do that. We're going to go ahead and create. We're going to get the dialog box that I showed you earlier. Okay, what do we want to call this? We're going to call it webinar. Okay, we'll keep the style at major grids. The band set is similar to what you have for your typical profile views. I don't really want a band in this case, and I do not have an alignment in this drawing file. So I'm actually going to go ahead, I'm going to create an alignment. I'm going to specify a point somewhere around that vicinity, right? And we're going to chug it down about that location there and just click it again and enter. Okay. So I'm going to include all of the information in this profile. That's my name. Okay, surface. I want it hatched. We're going to say next. Okay. Now, right now, it's only showing that there's one manhole that I've caught within a 20-foot buffer. So maybe we want to go ahead and make that 50 and see what kind of buffer we get and how many manholes we get. Manholes, boreholes we get. Okay. In this case, we've got 3. I can deal with that. That's fine. Okay. I don't have my codes different from what the defaults are. So let's go ahead and finish. Let's see what we've come up with here. We'll finish. Select the insertion point for my profile. And that's always awesome. Okay. The nice part is, and we'll talk about this here, is it has actually gone ahead, placed a profile line along our strata so that we can see it. Okay. Now, it is dynamic, just like our other profiles are. So if we move our alignments, we're going to get changes. It's going to update, etc. I guess I grabbed the label. Let's actually grab the alignment here. That'll help. There we go. Okay. So you'll see it adjust accordingly. Depends on location. It's the beautiful part about civil, right? Okay. Now in our profile view, I'm going to go ahead and select it. I'm going to right click. I'm going to say profile view properties. I'm going to go to hatch. And I want to, for lack of a better, we're going to go with multiple boundaries. We're going to get rid of cut. We're going to get rid of fill. And this is how you can do this. Is the problem I'm running into is it's not filling in my hatches. So my upper boundary, we want to select a profile. Happen to know that it is topsoil top. My lower boundary, topsoil base. We can get rid of this one. And if we hit apply, you can see it'll hatch for us. We can do the same for the others so that we can fill it in and we'll get a nice colored profile view of our strata along our alignment. Now, once we get to this point, This is a profile, just like any other profile. We can change stationing, we can change elevations, we can add a band if we want. Okay, change it from major grids to something else, say standard, change it up. Pretty ugly there, but we do have the opportunity to do that. Okay, so there is our introduction. We may have an additional webinar that will take us from this point so that we can actually bring them into InfraWorks and show them in our InfraWorks model as well, so that we can truly design in context. And with that, we'll go to any questions that you may have. We'll try to address them as best we can. Any that we don't or cannot answer, we'll get back with you so that we can. So it looks like we had one question from Adam, but he's already left. But his question was, can you store your database on a server that multiple people can access? Yes. Oh, Adam's still here. So yes, Adam, yes, you can. Absolutely. That's good to hear from you again, Adam. All right. Since there are no other questions, I'm going to turn it over to Ashley. I appreciate everybody's attendance. Thank you very much. We do appreciate the time that y'all take.
Scott, there was one more question that just popped in.
Okay. Let's see. I see it from Adam. If I update the CSV file, can I re-upload to the model? Yes. Can you show how to display the boreholes in profile? Will it overwrite it? No, it would not overwrite them. You would have an extra set, or you would have to create another profile view. Okay. Can I show how to display the boreholes in profile? As far as what, Robert? I'm not understanding your question. You just want me to do it again? Is that what you're asking? Strips of data, is there a way to auto load hatch, or do I have to create them from the module? No, you can access the AutoCAD hatch patterns. The one that I was using was the default ANSI 31. So yes, you can go into the hatch manager and you can change the hatch patterns, whether or not it's solid, what colors they are. So you can go in there and you can change each and every one from a specific color to a different color, specific hatch to a different hatch. So you already have all of the AutoCAD hatch functionality and patterns available to you. But there are some that are specific. Typically, it's just a combination of the two. So you may have to add it in twice just to copy and cover that. Okay. But yes, you have that ability. Okay, so the hatch patterns, yes. Already talked to you about that. Yeah, if you keep it on the network drive, you should be able to use it from project to project. And show the cross section. Yeah, the fence diagram. I believe that's what you're talking about. Let's see if we can pop one in here real quick. Yeah, from alignment to profile. Okay. One new fence, 0 existing. We'll create. Hello. Oh, it's pretty ugly, but close. Oops, wrong one. Sorry. Fingers got in the way. Rebuild. Now it was right there. I saw it. Let me do this for you, Robert. We've got your email address. Let me throw together. I'll do a screencast for you. I'm sure it's a user error here on my end, but I'll throw together a screencast based on this information, and we can go ahead and provide a link. We can do that, right, Ashley, on the email that we send all of the folks that attended, so they
Yes.
can see it as well.
Yes, that's possible.
Perfect.
Okay.
You won't, I'm assuming, Adam, that you're talking about boreholes that you've placed it, two-dimensionally. You won't overwrite those boreholes. You would have to go ahead and erase those and then utilize the geotechnical boreholes, if I'm understanding you based on your question. And if not, and you utilize 3D, the geotechnical modules, you should be able to overwrite them. So if you've already imported them, you'd be able to update more than overwrite. And if they're two-dimensional, you're going to have to just get rid of those first and then place them in with the module. They won't automatically see those. It doesn't understand that they exist. Okay. I think
Okay.
we're good, Ashley.
All right. Well, this will conclude our broadcast. If you think of additional questions, you can simply reply to that confirmation or reminder email you receive from GoToWebinar. We can get those to Scott or the appropriate person to get your questions answered. Once again, if you could take a few moments to answer the short survey, we would appreciate it. It will automatically appear as we close down the session. And thank you, Scott. Thanks for everyone for attending, and have a great day.
Thank you.